The following contains full spoilers for Final Fantasy XIII. Please check the description for more information. Final Fantasy XIII-2, Fragments Before. Part 4, Fair and Foul. Chapter 8. 10 minutes.
Oh, that's right. That's something Rigday would know better than anyone else.
The cavalry suffered a lot of deaths at the coup d'etat of Edenhall. A large majority of them had been those who were turned to Seath by the foul sea Bartandalus. What Rigday had gotten compensated for with the blood of Rains was later paid for by the blood of his own subordinates. Ironically, the ones who benefited the most from Rains' death were the former Sanctum dignitaries, while the ones who paid for it were the cavalry. Bartholomew turned his eyes to the footage of the large hall. The spectator gallery was almost entirely full. It was mostly filled with the same faces as the ones that filled the spectator gallery of Edenhall. Noel insisted that the former Sanctum had already paid their dues, and continued to sit their posts. Primarch Sid Raids had paid with his life, they said. The fact that most of SICOM's field officers had perished in battle was also advantageous for them. This was because they made the best subjects for shifting the blame onto, seeing as how the dead spoke no words. In particular, it was proclaimed that Jill Nabat and Yag Rosh, though they were already deceased, would be stripped of their civil rights for bringing unprecedented calamity upon Cocoon. It was again ironic that a recording created by Colonel Rosh would become the trump card used for wiping out the old guard. It was likely after Rigday had acquired the ID card. He thought it would be the only weapon that would defeat those who used Rains' death for their own benefit. Either way, he was glad that Rigday was the type of man who could make such cold calculations. If he had been the impulsive type, someone who would bristle with indignation and go for assassinating congresspeople, the Cocoon might have been in the midst of a civil war by now. He had heard that it was actually also Rigday's suggestion that they refashion this concert hall into the Parliament building, although it had probably been something that he had accomplished by taking advantage of their confusion, rather than something he had suggested. After he had the unburned records and documents moved there, he may or may not have said, "It'll take too much work to move elsewhere, and I can't get together the manpower, so why don't we just have the Parliament here?" He had probably already been working on modifying the security camera system and the storage room at that time. It would have been hard to do those kinds of preparations after the Congress people started coming and going frequently. It seemed there had been petitioning amongst the Congress people for a new parliament to be constructed, but it was dismissed as an outrageous request, as a great number of citizens were still being forced to live in inconvenience. Even if there hadn't been an issue of materials and manpower, Rigday would no doubt still have done everything in his power to prevent the construction of a new parliament, because his true motivation for choosing this concert hall was to strip the legislature of its influence. Well, he hadn't asked the man himself, but Bartholomew was confident that this is the case.
In a way, it's a good thing that Eden fell. The Congress shouldn't be located somewhere citizens have to look up at from below.
It was because Rigday had said this around the time when reconstruction efforts were still close to nil. Even though it had been Pelham-Pelham's most historical and prestigious concert hall, it was a place that residents would regularly visit. Differing from how Edenhall was closed to the public for the supposed protection of dignitaries, the large hall from where concerts had once been televised would be watched by citizens in some way. If they were at a place people were well acquainted with, then there would be no sense of authority or mystery.
"I guess I found some work to do."
Bartholomew mumbled when his eyes turned to the screen. He would open places that the former Sanctum had closed to the public and enforce access restrictions on. Even if problems of security were to arise, those were different issues. The right to knowledge and safety could by no means be traded off with each other. Before long, footage of the chairman walking to a seat on stage was being projected.
"Now, let's see what you are made of,"
muttered Bartholomew. To be continued.